Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Today we have a really great conversation with my friend Scott Ferguson, who is a plumbing contractor. I'm excited to start getting a few interviews with the trades here in the next few weeks. This is a great conversation. I actually had some plumbing work done recently, and so it was fun to kind of go back and forth and compare my experience with some of the services that Scott provides. And of course, how you can become a plumbing contractor if you're interested. Who are you and what do you do?
Hello, my name is Scott Ferguson, and I'm a plumbing contractor in the state of Idaho.
Great. And why did you choose plumbing?
So I am a fourth generation plumbing contractor. So my father's a plumbing contractor, my grandfather was a plumbing contractor, and his father, my great grandfather, was the first plumbing contractor in our family. And it's interesting because he became a plumbing contractor kind of around the time in the turn of the century in the early 1900s when indoor plumbing started to become popular and become a thing. And so we really have roots back to the basic beginnings of modern plumbing as we know it today.
It's from the very beginning.
Yes.
So
Yeah, he was born in
when you
1875. I'm 100 years younger than him.
nice, cool. When you say plumbing contractor, is that different from just plumber, or is it like a nicer way to say it, or is there a difference there?
Yes, yeah, there is. So in the plumbing industry, you have an apprentice plumber, right? Everybody heard about the apprenticeship program. That's very popular in the trades. So an apprentice is somebody that's learning. Once you finish your learning, you become a journeyman plumber. And then once you're a journeyman plumber for a long amount of time and you decide you want to either run or own a business, then you have to get a contractor's license. And so there's contractor's licenses for all the different trades. There's plumbing, electrical, general building contractors. And so I hold a plumbing contractor's license, but am a journeyman plumber, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so does that mean that you own your plumbing business or you're like a partner in it?
So I do not own it, right? I'm a partner in it because in order to operate a plumbing business, you have to have someone with a contractor's license. So although I
Okay.
don't own Master Plumbing, I am the license holder for the company, and so everybody who works for Master Plumbing works under my contractor's license using their own journeyman license, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like an umbrella.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
okay, that makes sense. So if you get hit by a bus, then Master Plumbing has to find a new contractor license.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know it worked that way. I thought the license or the contractor was just a business level certification, but I guess it belongs to a person,
Yes,
to an individual. Okay.
In Idaho belongs to a person. Actually, I think most other jurisdiction belongs to a person. A lot of
Okay.
times, it's more common though for the owner of the business to be the contractor also. We're a little
Yeah.
bit
Okay.
different for a larger company. In larger companies, it tends to be more like this, where you have one person who's specific to the contractor's license.
Is that so? Does that mean if one of your apprentices screws up, then ultimately it comes back to your license? Are you like the ultimate responsible person?
Yes, all the permits are pulled under my plumbing license, whether I look at the job or even know about it. Yes, it's my name on it.
Interesting.
So
Interesting. Good.
that's why it's important to create a good culture and a good team and a good training program, so that if there are any problems, it's up to me to get it fixed and done correctly. That's right.
Okay. Now, walk us through your experience a little bit of how you started apprentice. Did you go to college first? Where did you kind of start, and how did you end up where you are?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it depends. And hopefully, people who are watching this channel and this interview or whatever are wanting to know how to be successful in plumbing, right? So there's many ways to be successful in plumbing. A lot of people go into the trades and the plumbing in particular because they're not their learning style is not your typical go to school, read, take written tests. They're very hands-on people. Show me how to do something, teach me in person, and I'll learn that way, right? What's the word? Kinesthetic learner, I think, is the technical term for that, right?
Okay, I believe you.
I think that's what they call it. Um, So for them, college isn't an avenue. It doesn't interest them, right? Maybe they don't have a good enough grades to get into a college or something like that to do education. So they go into the trades to learn. Now, if you do that, you can make a great job as a journeyman plumber going through the apprenticeship program. But unfortunately, you kind of get capped a little bit unless you have a good business sense, right? You Communication these days does require you not to be able to read, to write, to articulate, to speak with people. That kind of takes you to the next level. You can get management positions if you can read and write and do that well. Um, if you know how to use math and you know how to figure what a P&L is, you understand profit and loss and how a business program runs and operates. You can then get into management or upper level management to do a little bit of both. And there's more money in that as you start overseeing other plumbers and people. And that's the position that I'm in. So I did 2 years of college. I actually went to the California Maritime Academy, believe it or not. I didn't want to be a
Okay.
plumber. I was going to be the black sheep to not be the plumber in the family. But that didn't work out for me for various reasons we won't get into in this interview here. But needless to say, I had 2 years of college there, and then afterwards, I took some online business classes to kind of supplement, so that I got that well-rounded ability to do my position that I'm in now. Because I ultimately had a goal to be in this position, because being a fourth generation plumbing contractor, I see what hard work does to your body. It's great when you're in your 20s, 30s, and even your 40s to work in the physical world of
Uh-huh.
being plumbing. Once you start hitting that 45 age, something like that, it's tough on your body. Your knees are beat up, your joints are beat up, your back hurts, and so you need to find something else that you can do to continue in the trade and continue to make some decent money. And that's where I am today. Does that answer your question?
Great. So now instead of being on the ground installing the toilets, you're in the office running the show.
Right. So I'm a second opinion. I do training. When things are difficult, I'm the one that makes the decisions on how we're going to proceed. I get to talk with the customers when there's a problem. I get to talk to the customers on bigger projects, so they know, so they can understand what we're going to do and why and how much it's going to cost. So it's great. It's great to see the next generation come up and kind of learn the ropes. It's fun.
Okay. That makes sense. So if I can't just go to community college or join a plumbing company and get licensed and then immediately go put a sticker on my car and say Dustin's Plumbing Company. Is that true? Is that right?
That is correct for the state of Idaho. Now, each
Okay.
state is a little bit different, right? So, like, I know Idaho, Montana, Oregon, Washington, they're very similar. We have reciprocal plumbing licenses between our states. Um,
Okay.
Other states like California, Utah, Nevada, they're a little bit different, so we're not reciprocal with them. Um, but like for California, I know, for example, you just need to have somebody has a contractor's license and they can hire anybody they want to work for them. You can come, you can start working for somebody who has a contractor's license as a plumber in California. There's no
Okay.
regulation. But in Idaho, that's not the case. In Idaho, you have to go through a 4-year apprenticeship program sponsored by a plumbing company who has a contractor sponsoring you. And we do have community colleges around here that do that. The one that we partner with is the College of Western Idaho, and they have a great 4-year program. All of my apprentices go there, and of course, we sponsor them and give them a 40-hour work week as their training module as they're going through school, right? So
Okay.
that's required.
So rather than, hey, I learned how to do this thing, now you can hire me to do this thing. Uh, Depending on your state, it takes a little bit more effort there. So to get a contractor's license, then um, is that like just a more advanced version before you can get a license as a journeyman plumber?
Yep, it's
You
another
have to
test.
be a journeyman first, or how
Yep.
does that work?
Yeah, you have to have a journeyman's license first, and that's after your 4 years, you get the journeyman's license. You're actually required to sit down and take. It's a 4-hour test, multiple choice test you have to take and pass. And then to become a contractor, you have to have a certain amount of time. In Idaho, you have to have 2 years as a journeyman minimum before you can apply for your contractor's license. And then that's another sit down test, another 4-hour test you have to take that has more um, different questions in regards to like running a business as opposed to technical questions on being a plumber. And then
Yeah.
you get that license, and then you can start your own business at that point.
Okay. Great. Is there ever a problem? This is maybe outside the scope of what you thought we were going to talk about, but I just kind of get in these rabbit holes and I can't help myself.
Let's do it.
Is there ever a problem when your company sponsors someone through their apprenticeship to get their journeyman's license, and then as soon as they're able to, they dump you and go start their own thing? Is that bad? Is that what you try to do? How does that work?
Yeah, so I'm never gonna turn anybody down or be upset with somebody for trying to live the American dream and start their own business, right? I mean, I think that's great, and that's where it needs to go. They need to get their training somewhere. We do when we do sponsor people, we do there's some investment there, right? And we hope
Yep.
people stay working for us for a while. So we pay for their schooling each year. We pay for their schooling for them, and in doing so, I ask for, or in order for them to get that money, they're required to work for us for at least 1 year for each year of school that we provide them. So if they do a
Okay.
4 year, so if they do a 4 year program with me, I know they're going to be here for at least 5 years because they need one additional year after they finish their course, right? So I know they'll be here at least for 5 years. Now, if they choose not to take that funding from our company to do that and they want to pay on their own pocket, yeah, there's not a whole lot I can do about that, but
Yeah.
we wish them well.
Usually, then, while a new plumber is going through school, they're taking some classes, but it's also a lot of on the job. They're still getting paid to do their plumbing work
Yes,
outside of their classwork, right?
yes, yeah. So the class work for our plumbers is a class once a week. So
Okay.
So it's a couple. It's like 2 nights, no, 2 hours once a week. So it's like 6 to 8 p.m. Sometimes it goes longer if there's a lab night. But it's really a commit for one night a week to go to in class, and then we provide them 40 hours of work week during that. And that's the typical, September through June school season. They have the summer off.
And they can still keep working for the company
Oh yeah,
during some of
they're
their 40
expected. They're
hours.
expected to,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Okay.
just
Yeah.
go to school during the summer.
Okay. So there's no like, if someone was going to go to high school and they already knew they wanted to become a plumbing contractor, they can just start right then with their apprenticeship program. No need
Yes,
to take time off to just pay money to go to school.
that's right. Yep, you can start
Okay,
right out of high school. Yep.
great. Do you know? Well, actually, I don't know the specifics for Idaho. What I do know in Utah, where we live, um, any high school student gets free tuition at any state technical college.
Mm.
So, what that means in Utah, I think, is that you can essentially, if you know you want to become a plumbing contractor, you can go knock out all or most of your classwork for free while you're still in high school. And I don't know exactly how that works with the licenses and becoming a journeyman or whatever. I don't know if you can graduate high school as a journeyman or if there's more required or what. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's a fun fact about where I live now.
Yeah, and that's cool. And I'm not, I don't know about Utah licensing either, but you do. Most licenses have an hours worked associated with it in order to get
Okay.
the license, right? So you might be able to do the schooling, but then you can't sit for the journeyman's exam until you've completed the required on-the-job hours training, which typically
Okay.
adds up to 4 years of on-the-job training.
4 years full time, 40 hours a week.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
typically what it's required across the country. Is what I've seen.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, okay, now one thing I have to ask is what is the weirdest or grossest job that you've been called out to do? I realize you're usually not with your hands on the pipes anymore, but when you were, tell us some fun stories here.
Yeah, there's some good stories. So, that's all relative to people, but I think one of the worst things I saw was an apartment complex called in. One of their tenants had a clogged toilet that wasn't working. But what they
Oof.
neglected to tell us is that it hadn't been working for weeks. And what they also
Oh
neglected to
no.
tell us is that the tenant was still living in the unit. And so when we got there, unfortunately, the water in the toilet had basically evaporated and we had a mound looking like mashed potatoes, except it wasn't mashed potatoes in the toilet bowl, kind of like a camping kaibo in this guy's
Oh,
apartment. And he didn't seem to care. He would just squat over the top and put his next piece in there when he was ready. And
Oh
so
man.
that was kind of nasty. We actually left and had we subbed it out to a restoration company to come in with one of their
Uh-huh.
special vacuum trucks, and they sucked it all out, and then we were able to clear the toilet up. But yeah, that was pretty gnarly.
Oh man. When
Yeah.
we were renting when we lived in Texas, um, it was all old cast iron plumbing. And
Hmm.
so like 4 or 5 times during the year that we lived there, we had to call the plumbers out because there was something backing up. Thankfully, it only ever backed up into the shower and it never overflowed onto the floor.
Yeah.
But our kitchen sink was clogged once, and it was just an old fashioned clean out, and it was just dumping outside of the house. And our toilets were clogged up once, and it came up into the shower. And then another time, the laundry drain
Yeah.
was backing up too. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was not a fun experience.
No, we've had a lot of flooded basements. Like another common one we see a lot is you have an older widow, maybe lives by herself in a two-story house. She's living upstairs because it's on a hill. Maybe that's the street level. She don't go into the basement or unfinished basement there, and the sewer backs up, and she doesn't realize it. And every time she flushes the toilet, it's just coming out the
Just
downstairs
comes out
toilet
more.
and flooding downstairs. I've gone to a house one time with 3 feet of sewage in their basement. Right? I mean
Oh man.
that's no fun. I mean, literally, it's like
So
3 feet. Like you couldn't even get there without swimming through it. So it's like you can't do that. You got to get that to suck it out with first.
So we know people always will need plumbers' helps. I
Yes.
I personally I always try and learn how to do it myself because I enjoy learning that kind of stuff. With
Yeah.
plumbing, it's like 50-50. Is this something that I can trust to do myself? Can I actually get it figured out and have it be safe and permanent and everything? Versus like I don't even want to deal with that. We're calling the professionals, right? Um, Give us your like 2 minute spiel about how to avoid needing to call the plumber. What are the biggest things that we should be doing so that we can avoid needing a plumber?
Probably the biggest things that I see that are preventable are just basic inspections on your home, right? A lot of people don't inspect the plumbing and they don't look for wear and tear. So you look at things, if you see something looks corroded, call a plumber, get an opinion on it, because that could burst or cause a flood when you're away and you won't know anything about it, right? Um, Check your drains, right? Don't shove it full of food, right? Scrape your food into the garbage can. Use the garbage disposal to rinse the plate, right? That'll prevent clogs in the drains, right? Don't overload your toilet with too much toilet paper, right? That's another big one. Just double flush if you need to. Those are some of the basic things you can do. Is just flush your water heater out on a regular basis, right? Do that annually just to make sure you get your eyes on it. Check some of your valves under your sinks. Turn the valves off, turn the valves back on. It just really takes 30 seconds to do something like that. It's just using it and observing. And when you see something that's different or not what it should be, call and ask a plumber about it or somebody with expertise about it to determine how urgent or superficial is it, right? Is it something we need to worry about, or is it something you can get taken care of before it becomes something worse? Most
Yeah.
plumbing problems can be avoided with an inspection beforehand. It's usually neglect is where we see the big money ticket items come from.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Um, okay, this is a topic for maybe a completely different time. But you mentioned second opinions at the beginning, and we're talking about calling a plumber to come out and give you an idea of if you see something that might be weird. How Okay, I'll ask this in like two different ways, right?
Okay.
First, as the consumer,
Mhm.
how can I know which plumbers are trustworthy or giving me a good deal for what I'm asking to do? And then secondly, from your perspective as the plumbing contractor, how can you make sure to maintain that kind of trust and you're not just charging more for something that doesn't really need to get fixed?
Those are really great questions, and I have some good advice and tips for everybody like that. So, from the consumer point of view, the biggest thing that you want to ask for is get a referral from somebody, right? That's usually somebody that had a good experience with somebody else is usually a good sign. Okay, that's not always a good thing, but usually it's a start.
Yep.
Google reviews is becoming very popular for service industries, and most Google reviews are pretty accurate. Google's been cracking down a lot on some of their false, fake reviews, and um, paid reviews are becoming harder and harder to do. And so Google reviews are a good thing also. The other thing you want to check is you want to check in your local jurisdiction on what's required of a plumber. For example, sometimes people say they're a plumbing shop, but they really don't have an experience. They're doing it under the radar. They don't have a plumbing license. They're not
Okay.
registered with the Better Business Bureau. They don't have a state license as required. They're just kind of operating under the radar as like a mom and pop fix it kind of person, right? Those people you're going to want to stay away from too, because if something happens, they're not going to be insured. They're not going to have the proper bonds with the cities. And so they're not going to be able to help you if they make a mistake or cause an issue. You're going to be on your own to cover those, recoup those costs. So I always like to ask I would ask all the plumbers that come over, hey, do you have a license? Are you a licensed company? What's your plumbing license? And they're all supposed to have them marked on their truck. And that's another red flag is if somebody
Okay.
shows up to you in your house and it's in a white truck that's not marked, right? Now there could be a reason, like maybe it's a brand new truck and they just haven't put the letters and got it marked up yet. But in Idaho, at least, you're supposed to have your plumbing license on your truck before you do business. So that's one other thing to look at is when the vehicle comes up, is it a marked vehicle with a plumbing license on it? And then you can look it up. Google the license. Their website should also have their contractor's license number on it, or you can call the company and ask them what their contractor's license number is, and then you can look it up and see if there's been any complaints on the license, if there's been any delinquencies on the license fees being paid, and you can see what kind of a plumbing contractor. You can see how many permits that they've pulled, and the status on the permits, like what ones are open, which ones have failed, how many have passed. That's all public records based on
Yeah.
your.
Okay. Okay. I have so many other questions that I could ask about this just as a consumer of plumbing services. But
Yes.
I'm going to put those on hold until
Okay.
the end. And if we've still got time, I'm going to come back around because I've got some really good stories of some plumbing that we just had done recently. And I would love to see your reaction. But
All
for
right.
now, let's move on and ask if somebody wants to be a plumber, how much can they expect to make at the beginning of their career and on up until you're the contractor in the office?
Yes.
How
Great
much
question.
money do you make? What benefits come from that? Things like that.
All right. So let me, if you don't mind, I'll back up just a little bit from that question, and let's kind of talk about the different types of plumbers there are out there, because
Okay,
that's also
great.
going to affect your income on which path you want to go and when. So there's new construction plumbing, which is where plumbers are hired to build a new building, whether it's a home, a commercial property, whatever, and the plumbing has to go in for the building, right? That's
Yep.
new construction plumbing. Those plumbers are typically paid by the hour, okay? And so what they would do is they would get usually starting pays, at least in Idaho, is anywhere from 15 to 20 bucks an hour for starting pay. And then as you progress, it kind of moves up. And you should probably be in the mid 30s by the time you graduate plumbing school, and then 30s to $40 an hour, probably as a journeyman plumber. And then if you become a master plumber, sometimes some states have master plumbers. I think Texas does. You'd probably get more, be in the low 40s as of 2025. That's and that
I have to pause you just there for a second to point out that $30 an hour after you finished your plumbing training without any sort of college school debt is pretty awesome. So,
yes,
like, I'm just going to take a second to recognize that zero school debt, already making $40 an hour. And by the way, you've been working the whole time. You haven't been taking any time. Anyway,
that's
sorry to
true.
interrupt. I just wanted to point that out that when people are dissing on plumbers or I got to go to college to get a hoity-toity degree, they're often far behind the people who went to trade school. Anyway, I'll stop there. Get off my little
Well,
soapbox.
that's a great point, right? Because you don't have all the debt to pay off, and that's one of the reasons why the trades is becoming more and more popular these days. As people start balancing and weighing that, do I want to go to debt or do I just want to do work with my hands and get paid to learn, basically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's great. So that's the hourly. And the next way you get, or the next kind of plumber there is out there is the service and repair plumber, right? That's most of the plumbers that people see come to their home residentially if you already live somewhere, because now the plumbing is already established in the home. It's already built, and now you're going to be repairing an existing system or maybe doing an add-on to it or something like that. That's the company that I work with, Master Plumbing. We do service and repair plumbing only. We do not build new buildings. Okay, and that's what I've
Okay.
done my whole career is service and repair plumbing. A little bit more, I think service and repair plumbers have a little bit more uh, troubleshooting abilities because they have to figure out what's wrong with the system before they can come up with a solution to fix it, right? As opposed to the new construction guys, they just put in the system as it's designed on paper, which is also important in
Right.
itself. And that's hard
Yeah.
to do too. You got to learn to read blueprints and stuff like that. That just is hard. So the troubleshooting is a little bit different. So you have to figure out what's going wrong and what's not. Those plumbers also get paid hourly, very similar to the same schedule you're on. But some of them also get paid on commissions on that, right? They get paid a percentage of the project, percentage of the job that they do.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so it's a good way to ask your plumber how they get paid. Are you commissioned for fee for service? I guess is what people call them these days, right?
Yeah.
A lot of residential customers like that because you provide them a number up front and you say, here's what it's going to cost to do your project, and so there's no surprises at the end on how much it's going to cost. When
Yeah.
my dad was an apprentice, or actually first owning his business when he was younger, he said one of the big problems he had with customers that he had to always overcome was when he was done, he would go do the job and then he would submit the bill when he was done because he charged time and materials. So we'd have to say,
Yeah.
Mr. Jones, I was here 4 hours and I was $85 an hour. I used this much parts. Here's how much my parts cost. And here's the total, the bill. And so they didn't know up front whether it was going to be a 2 hour job or a 6 hour job, right?
Yeah.
And so then they're like, oh man, I thought it was going to be an hour job, you know? And so I don't know. And it also gets tough too, because now is the plumber working slower to make more money
Yep.
or, you know, or is he working really fast at the end of the day because it's 3 o'clock on Friday and he's just wants to go home and be with his kids and he's doing a really crappy job now, right?
Yeah.
It kind of goes both directions. So the flat fee is becoming more and more popular, and a lot of service companies tend to charge that these days. And so, and so service companies tend to be a little bit higher. Well, not tend to be. Service and repair people are always more expensive than new construction people
Okay.
because we're your home to fix that, right? So that's
Yeah.
not uncommon for that. And so they would make anywhere between when they get started probably $40,000 to $60,000 a year is probably what a first, second, third year, fourth year service and repair plumber might be making.
And is that generally just based on a salary? Hey, you're going to come roughly 40 hours a week doing whatever jobs we give you, and you'll have the same salary at the end of the year. Is that,
Sometimes
is that,
sometimes it's salary, sometimes it's a base plus. I mean, you get like a salary, and then you get commissioned off of the revenue that the company makes, right? To help encourage
okay.
people, give people options, right, on what they want to. And because you're actually a plumber who goes to service and repairs, also kind of in sales as well. So
Yeah.
if you do sales from the home sales point of view, because let's say you have a garbage disposal that doesn't seem to be working, so I would come to your house and I would say, hey Dustin, I'm sorry that your garbage disposal isn't working. I have a couple different options here. It looks like it's an older model, but I might be able to unjam it, and it will cost $200.
Yeah.
Or if you just don't want to put $200 in, I can give you a whole new garbage disposal, and that's going to be $400. And that's for just kind of like a low end, medium garbage disposal. Or I have this really cool garbage disposal. Does your wife like to cook, or do you like to cook a lot? If you cook and entertain, and you want to like put chicken bones down here, I can give you this 1 horsepower garbage disposal for like $1,000, right? And then you kind of get to
Wow.
choose based on what the person needs, what the person is interested in, and what they do in their home, right? The first thing I would do is I'd probably fire one of my guys if he sold little old grandma widow who's all by herself $1,000 garbage disposal to entertain, right? She's not doing that.
Yeah.
But somebody in their 30s and they party all the time and have people come over and they're entertaining all the time. Yeah, that's not an unreasonable request, and they wouldn't know about it if we didn't offer it.
Yeah.
So
You
that's
know,
kind of like how that works.
so again, maybe I'm going off kilter here, but I didn't even know there were garbage disposals that could handle chicken bones. That just sounds so cool to me. Like, hey guys, check out what my garbage disposal can do.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing nowadays. Yeah, they
Yeah.
got
Oh man,
options for everybody.
keep your fingers away, I guess.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, they have fancy, toilets that are like robots that talk to you. You talk to, hey, flush the toilet, or
Yep.
warm the toilet seat up for me. I'm coming in to use the bathroom. Hey Siri.
That is that is something that I think America just needs to catch up with the rest of the world on. Drop the toilet paper, get a bidet. They're like $200 at Costco for a heated seat, heated water, remote control. Come to the 21st century world. Come on.
Yes, Americans are behind the times in that for sure.
Yes. Although I was happy to see in Home Depot the other day, they at least have kind of the manual, non electric bidet attachments there for like 20, $30. So
Yeah,
there's no longer any excuse,
there
right?
isn't. Just gotta get used to it. Gotta get used to it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Hmm.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the process of becoming a plumber. Do you have any advice for someone who's just starting out? I guess we don't need to go through the whole track again, but somebody who's either wanting to shift careers into becoming a plumber, get a little more training, or maybe someone's just graduating high school and doesn't want to go to college, right?
Right. So my suggestion, and this goes for like basically anything in life, but especially for in the trades. If you want to be the best at what you do, always ask and understand the why behind it instead of just the how. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're working with a journeyman plumber and he's training you as an apprentice, and he says, okay, you're going to put in this size of drain line over here. You're going to put in this type of floor drain for whatever reason, and then ask him why. Why are we choosing that? What's the benefit to that? Because the why behind it is really going to make you the better person. You know, why am I choosing this type of water heater? Why is this water heater great for this application? Don't let somebody tell you, just put it in. Find out the why. You'll be a better plumber for it. So that's my advice for
Okay.
you.
Great. And is this usually something where you go find a plumbing company that you want to join and say, "Hey, can you help pay for my training?" Or do you want to start and look at your community college listings or see if there's a program that will introduce you to a plumbing company? What's the very first step?
So the very first step is to go visit a plumbing shop. See if you can get a job there. If you know you want to do that, go to some plumbing shop and be the shop helper. Right? That's what you're
Okay.
going. It's about knowing people. It's about knowing what you're into. Try it out. Be a shop helper. And you might be sweeping floors, but that's how you get started. You get to know the plumbers, and they start talking to you. They start taking you with them. Oftentimes you'll have to go, or not you have to go, but oftentimes if you just volunteer to do stuff for free, do an extra thing with the guy, help them clean out their truck, do something like that where they're going to like you, then they're going to request you and want you, and you're going to learn more, right? So the very first step is to find somebody in the trades, talk to them, and get an in. It's who you know a lot of times and making the good jobs.
That's interesting. I was expecting you to say, "Well, yeah, if you don't know anybody, then go ahead and sign up for the classes." But that's totally different than what I was expecting. Yeah.
Yeah, don't sign. I mean, you can sign up for the classes. That gives you a good start, good background. But to get your licensing, you need the hours to work. So you need a job. As somebody who hires apprentices, I don't tend to hire the guys that are year 3 or 4 that don't have a sponsorship yet, because they don't have a sponsorship yet because they either have a bad attitude, they don't have the go get 'em mentality, they haven't really thought about their career very much, because they're not talking to people in the industry, right? So it makes me want to think like, what's wrong? Why can't they get a job and get sponsored with? So
Okay, that makes sense. I totally
you,
different than what I expected, but great.
yes,
Yeah.
you want to get sponsored. We want you young.
That's it. Thanks for joining our conversation. We actually stayed on the call a lot longer than that. I was talking about a specific plumbing project that we have going on and kind of getting some of Scott's reactions. But as I rewatched the video, I realized that it's not actually that interesting for other people because you weren't there and it doesn't have anything to do with you. Please remember to share this channel with your career curious friends. And thank you. We now have over 20 subscribers, so we're well on our way. Thanks, Mom.